Hello, it's Scott Manley here with part 9 of Galileo Conquest. And conquesting we are. We are collecting scientific data. Well, we're basically collecting all the maps data that we have been surveying from the planets below. So we have spacecraft in orbit of the three main bodies of the Gale system. So we have Gale, Iota, and SETI. Each of those we have a topology map from the radar, and we have a biome map, I think, which is coming from the LiDAR. And all of that can be turned in for more science, and science, of course, means more technology, and that's all great. Although I do get to complain occasionally that LiDAR is actually much better for the topographic stuff, whereas radar is much better at biomes, because radar penetrates the surface and lets you tell how much moisture there is. It lets you figure out what kind of vegetation there is. But the vegetation we really want will be our hydroponics system. We are getting close to getting the technology for this, but we still have to unlock heat management and some various other things. We have a bunch of science to spend at this tier. I think advanced electrics looks like a sure bet for something, so we're going to take that. What else do we have? That's costing about 160 per node right now. Heavier rocketry? Bigger rockets there, always a sure bet. Fuel systems, that gives us smaller things, but it does give us some external boosters and bits and pieces. The specialized construction is fun because it's going to give us winches. And bombs, oh yeah, I like the fact that we have docking ports and bombs and things like that. Okay, so definitely getting the heavier rocketry. We don't really care about that. Probably advanced fuel systems. I think I do like that because it has the Rocamax booster, which will be useful. Specialized construction. No, let's not do that. Let's get landing gear, though. I think landing gear is excellent. And leaves us 274. We've got one more option. Aerodynamics? Not so much. What else? Supersonic flight. That's all very nice. Not going to bother with that. Efficient flight systems? Nope. We're not about efficiency. Actuator. Oh, the claw. The claw, yes, we shall take the claw. We can recover some debris from space with that if we want. Also, we have a ton of money to spend. We get like 3 million funds. Let's bring tracking station up to everything. Let's make sure everything's level 2. And then let's consider level 3 for suitable things. And one of the things I really want to get to level 3 soon is the R&D shop. But that is a whopping 1.7 million. Okay, 1.69. Who's counting? You could buy a lot of rockets for that, and I like rockets. I also like R&D, but I think we'll go with the. We'll just wait until I've got a little more money on hand. Tracking station. Tracking station makes a lot of sense to get to level 3 because it means we can. Our transmission range is now maxed out. Mission control, don't care. Launch pad, for that is a definite level 3. And how about the vehicle assembly building? Yeah, you know what? Let's build the biggest rockets and everything. I am not great at using this strategy, so let's just leave that. Okay, so we still have the contract to explore Iota. I still have to hit at least one more biome, and so Gym D is the option here. Gym D is basically the same lander, but we have now landed goo canisters. Of course, it's the same lander you've already seen on 2 different launches, and so now we get to watch the whole thing not at 4 times regular speed, but at 10 times regular speed. Oh yeah, this is going to be super fast. Because let's face it, unless the rocket explodes, there's not that much interesting stuff to see on a Kerbal rocket launch anymore. I mean, and I don't tend to have many explosions. Unless I deliberately don't plan things out, and that's of course part of the theme here, right? I'm showing you all the launches with no simulations, because maybe something goes wrong, and that provides some entertainment. But lacking that, what do I have to do? I have to do the YouTuber thing of talking rubbish over stuff, filling airtime with, interesting facts or dumb jokes and things like that. Seriously, being a YouTuber is one of those jobs that I would not want to do professionally. I mean, I know I could do it professionally, but I'm not going to do it professionally. YouTube is very much a plan B for me right now. But I won't deny that it's a pretty good plan B compared to my current plan A of my tech job. Plan Bs are actually interesting. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy called Leland Melvin. He was an awesome football player, and I say American football player. He went to college on a football scholarship. He was a running back, I think. He got drafted into the Detroit Lions. He injured himself, had to drop out of the thing. Eventually became an engineer, and then his plan B career, he was an astronaut. And not only was he an astronaut, but he had the most awesome astronaut photo ever with his dogs. Yes, same guy. He was a football player before he was an astronaut. Seriously, kids, if you have your heart set on being a celebrity in sports or YouTube, always have a plan B. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, we were landing the Jim D somewhere. I don't even remember what biome I went for. Yeah, we have the plateaus here. Look at that, beautiful. Sending it down to the surface, touching down almost perfectly, collecting that mystery goo and watching things explode again. I like the fact that that kind of bounces along the surface. Make sure that I have some more stuff to see, place to mark my landing site. As I said, it's rather like, dogs marking their territory, except that rockets do it with rocket fuel and debris. Now, at this point, I've explored my third biome requirement for the mission, but hey, let's go for it. We know there's one other biome in this world. It's the polar regions. And I boosted over and then realized that I was heading right on top of a mountain, which... as you see, required some last-minute diversions to make sure I didn't pile into the side of it far too quickly. And then, of course, after preventing a near disaster, I go for a gentle landing on the first surface I find. And that first surface I find turns out to be a really bad plan. So yeah, we take a quick excursion back into the skies and go again. Not quite as steep, and certainly a lot slower, and this time we make the landing, collecting that all-important science goo, transferring it all into the experiment storage unit, and, after a quick surveil of the orientation of where the stars are, we start heading back into the skies, and of course, this dinky little engine is barely able to provide enough thrust to get us into space, but it has more than enough delta V, so as long as we carefully adjust our orientation correctly so that we begin our deorbit, we'll be fine. Transitioning from the launch into the return trajectory, killing off as much of that lateral velocity as possible, or rather brutally murdering my lateral velocity so that it cannot live to tell the tale. You know what they say, dead velocities will not make you swing around the planet and miss. But now I am swinging around the planet at 3 kilometers per second, but I'm doing my best to burn off as much velocity as possible, not because I necessarily expect to need it, but because by burning that off, I've managed to save more of the spacecraft and therefore save money. I've returned more debris to be analysed by the scientists. 879 science. Time to put that to some use. So, hydroponics, fertilizer tank. No, that is a bunch of poop. We don't need it just yet. Specialized controls. I have no idea. So, 879, there has to be obvious ones. None of these are obvious, really, are they? I'm just going to start taking them. Supersonic flight, okay. And do I want the orbital end? Yeah, do want to have specialized construction so we can do docking. Efficient flight, I don't know. An electric ducted fan. Do I want to build electric planes? Sure, why not? And all these other things, sure. Specialized control, 239, one more. And I think I have thermal control or I have advanced aerodynamics. I'm going to take the aerodynamics because there's only one item in that other thing. Well, we got a lot of cool stuff to look at coming up down the pipeline, as they say. And then the next tier after that, I'm going to need an R&D upgrade. We also have a cool contract here, kick off space tourism. Tito Kerman dreams of going to space. Unlike most Kerbals who simply show up the astronaut complex, Tito is willing to pay his way into space. And we appreciate money, so Tito will be the first space tourist. He will also be the first visitor to our new space station. We're actually launching a space tourist mission and an experimental space station at the same time. This is going to have 4 crew members, one of which is a tourist. Jebediah, Bill, Bob, they're all going into space here. And they're doing this on top of a ginormous 2.5 meter diameter rocket sitting on top of one of these boosters. Now, it's worth noting these boosters are really good early on. The only thing to be concerned about is that they don't have alternators, so they don't generate electrical power. But their thrust to weight ratio is pretty good, and they're pretty efficient as well. I think they're excellent. I mean, sure, people like to have the giant mainsail there, kicking them in the butt. But these boosters, no, these boosters, there's 2 of them. 2 for the price of 1, and they have vectoring and all the other stuff that you would like. The only thing I'm concerned about here is that Jebediah and Tito are looking rather dark. I'm hoping that Tito doesn't mind that he clearly can't see anything because he's inside a fairing. Yeah, this is our launch vehicle here. We have a space station on the front, and we have a little return vehicle that can handle 2 Kerbals. And the smart people out there will realize that this means that there is not enough return vehicles for everyone, which is why we do have a decent amount of life support on it. Still in the process of actually trying to figure out how that works. I will probably learn when I accidentally kill someone, which will be quite entertaining. Anyway, we're boosting this into orbit, and watch just how almost perfectly this works. Look at it! Burns out with a periapse of 5 kilometers. So this final stage does not need a huge amount of delta V to get itself into an orbit that it can circularize. We're of course boosting the entire station using these little clip-on boosters around the outside. As I said, it doesn't need a huge amount of delta V from this point, maybe about 100 meters per second. I guess we decided to put it in a 150 kilometer orbit or thereabouts, mostly because that's where the booster put us. Anyway, it's also worth noting that this is now transitioned to Kerbal Space Program 1.2.2, and that also means the number of the models have been changed because apparently I didn't quite get the same mods as before. We'll figure that out. The important thing is that I haven't been told that any of my models will not load because they're missing parts. Galileo has had a huge update, so we not only get better textures and better effects, we get more messages from the science. The goo floats around leisurely. Yes! Okay, and of course you guys can all read that if you are playing with it. Now, we're not really interested in the science so much because this is just the core of the space station, and it was a requirement that we had a science lab on it. We've collected most of the science data from low Kerbin orbit, but the important thing is we've, taken one more step to becoming a self-sufficient species in space. Look at this beautiful station here. Very, very simple, just a big long cylinder in space, but with a ton of docking nodes. We shall take some journeys around the world so that our passenger, Tito Kerman, gets to take a look at the world that he has only known from within its atmosphere. Now, thanks to his superpower of being incredibly rich, he has been able to rise above that and view the world in a way that only truly talented individuals have previously been able to do so. After a few orbits stuck in the command module, of course, he asks, wait, I was promised to go to the space station. Oh, yeah, we should probably undock and actually take you over there. So he spent his entire contracted tourist time out in the escape capsule. The escape capsule doesn't actually have a way to go back into the station because it was attached to the front of the viewing, the cupola module there. I'm going to turn this around using the little reaction control thrusters. And of course what the station has is 2 sets of docking ports. One set of 4 are the regular docking ports, and then we have the junior docking ports. Because we want to be an equal opportunity, we are not a sizist station. No, the Clonruchert station is intended to offer benefits to docking ports of all sizes. So it's been really interesting the last few days watching both the Dragon and a Progress spacecraft heading to the International Space Station. SpaceX, of course, had a problem. They were approaching in a lower orbit. They had some issue. And what happens in that case is they actually stay in the lower orbit, fly past the station, and then they go up into a higher orbit so that they travel back over the station. And then they can return to their lower level orbit and attempt a second approach, and that's what they did. Meanwhile, yes, our station here opens its eyes, lets Tito Kerman look out for but a second, and then tells him to get back on the spacecraft because we gotta go home. He has used up all the hours that he paid for, and now it's time for him to return home with Jebediah Kerman. Yes, but that's part of the vacation, is he gets to hang out with, Thrill Master Extraordinaire Jebediah Kerman, rather than, say, Bill or Bob, because while those guys are interesting to talk to, they are not the best pilots in comparison to Jebediah. And of course there is that whole contractual thing about bringing him back alive, and if you're going to do that, you're going to put him with the best pilot, right? The one that can take care of him. Not only is Jebediah Kerman an awesome pilot, I also hear that he is an expert at dealing with bears, wolves, and the giant mollusks of the Galilean outback. I mean, I know bears and wolves are scary, but nobody wants to be slimed to death by a giant snail. Anyway, while we're now beginning the deorbit burn, it's worth taking a look at how the trajectories mod works. This is a mod, I'm not sure if it was in my original install, but see that red line? That starts to predict the orbit with aerodynamics involved. And that red cross is supposed to be where we actually land. Looks like I'm aiming for mountains. I'm hoping I don't actually hit the mountains, but you can adjust things a whole lot. Now, before we descend, we want to detach the service module, and the best way to do that is to send it downwards through the atmosphere so that it burns up first and we get a nice little light show. If we put it into a higher orbit, then it will burn up last and it won't be nearly as cool. If we send it ahead in our orbit, then we seriously run the risk of slamming into it as we plough through the atmosphere. Sure, the atmosphere is hard enough to descend through, but smashing into debris of a recently detached stage, that is a whole lot harder. Oh, looks like we're following a river there. Is there actually a name for that river? I should probably find out. Well, whatever. Tito has no doubt been snapping pictures until while he can, the G-forces will soon build up and his frail civilian bones won't be able to hold him. Well, actually, it only reached about 3 Gs. I think even I could manage that. Descending through the atmosphere, parachutes deployed, science collected. What a beautiful sight this is. One thing I haven't shown you is the interior of this thing. The interior is pretty sweet, I gotta say. There's a lot of instruments, there's manuals that are somehow just sitting there. It looks like some code here, about doing explosions. When you're flying, these windows don't give great visibility, but hey, you do have the hula Kerman to look at. I say Kerman because I've heard that traditionally the hula was a dance that was performed by the men. But anyway, you can see that the voyage of Tito Kerman is over. He has made a world's first, and with the end of his mission, it is the time to end this episode, and I will of course be back with part 10, hopefully a bit sooner. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.